Hello there, welcome to another episode of World of Tanks with Guinea Titan, and in this episode I want to talk about the Skoda T40. The Tier 5, the Tier 5 Czechoslovakian tank that comes after the STVZ-39, and it's a similar kind of tank to the STVZ-39 in that you're basically talking about fairly mobile medium tank with an okay gun. I mean, the gun is punchy, accuracy and gun handling is a bit on the poor side, but it's not terrible, so you can kind of live with it. The big problem with the tank is that the tank requires a fairly high degree of situational awareness in order to be effective in it. What I mean by that basically is you don't want to be shot back at, and you don't want to be making snapshots. Doesn't have the accuracy or the aim time for successful snapshotting. You may hit something, but it's pure luck. You really need to let the gun aim in if you're to hit things reliably, and if you hit things reliably you will generally put holes in it and you'll cause damage. However, to do that you need to spend the time waiting for the gun to aim in, and therefore you need to not be shot back at while you're doing that. And that requires a high degree of situational awareness, because you either need to be out of sight, far away enough that, but still able to make your gun effective, or if you're kind of peeking out, you need to be able to do it in such a way that the enemies are distracted, that they're not going to shoot back at you, and the range is close enough that the accuracy of the gun isn't going to matter so much. So, and it's also a tank like where, while it's reasonably mobile, it's not fast. In that if the situation you're in becomes compromised, you need to be leaving before or as soon as it becomes compromised. You can't afford to really hang around and wait. And by and large, you can't rely on the armor. It's the hit points essentially is your armor. Most tanks will be able to put a round through it without any difficulty. It will bounce the odd round, but it's not something, it's a bonus feature, shall we say. It's not something you can rely on. This isn't a well armoured tank. So, but the gun is punchy enough so that if you can keep the gun firing and you can keep it in action for most of the game, you will find that you've done very, very well for yourself. In my case, I find it, well, I haven't played this a lot, and this is at a much lower tier, but I've played the T40 and I found myself to be very inconsistent on the T40, in that I have had great games, and then I've had lots of terrible games. And again, it's the situational awareness aspect of the game that lets me down. I put the tank into positions that are not viable for this kind of tank. But might be safe for a more heavily armoured tank or one with better accuracy, because you might just have to snapshot to make things work at the locations that I've kind of chosen. However, I have not had this long. I've only had it, I think, one session or so that I've played with it. I've had a good few games in that session, and I've had a couple of decent games in it. One of them was here in Icebound, a map that I loathe with a passion. It's my most hated map in the game, although I've seen the PC version. The PC version is about a third bigger, and if we could have maps that size in the console version, I think it would probably work fine, because there's a lot more countryside. The city is smaller proportionate to the entire map, and because there's a lot more countryside, you have sort of more versatile options. You're not confined to doing a very limited number of things, which is the real problem with this map. It isn't so much a corridor map, but it is a map where if you're in glass cannon type tanks, and this is effectively a glass cannon type tank, you're very limited in what you can do and where you can go. I mean, in many respects, if that T28 had been a little bit more aggressive, this location that had been positioned more further forward would have been denied to me, and I wouldn't be able to be up here and harass him. But then if he was more further forward, I don't know, you know, he still wouldn't have had much effect on the game because he still was hanging back and he's one of the last tanks to be engaged. And by that stage the game is decided. If you were the last tank to be engaged, it doesn't matter how well you did as the last tank engaged. The battle was decided long before anybody came to you and involved you in it. The other thing to be said about this tank is, of course, that Tier 5, relative to its hit points, the gun is actually punchy enough. So I mean, I have 640 damage done with 6 penetrating rounds. So I would probably do my fire for effect. I'd get my hit points worth of damage done with 4 rounds. Now I used a good bit of premium ammunition there because I was fighting higher tier tanks. And I'm on the stock gun, you just need to use it. So we came far down the field. We didn't do a huge amount of damage, but we did it against higher tier tanks as well. So we got pretty good experience points after netted a 6th class mastery. Now we're on Insk. As far as I recall, we're still on the stock gun. Now it's better matchmaking than the previous game. We've a number of tier 6s in the enemy team. We've actually got more tier 6s in ours for whatever reason. And well, Insk is a fairly confined map. It's generally not the kind of map that I prefer to see with a tank like this because, again, you're going to be spotted a lot and you're going to be shot at from a lot of different directions. So again, the idea is to try and keep my awareness up, try and prevent flanking situations from occurring without me being aware of it. And just basically minimise the amount of sightlines people have. Now, sometimes firing up the centre of the map or catching people crossing between one side or the other along this road can be very profitable. Although you can shoot through the door, but you can't. I don't think you can shoot through the window next door because that represents a window in front of us, whereas this I think is a clear run to both sides. And in principle, the guys on the other side can shoot back through that window. But I think you'd want a gun more accurate. Well, I suppose the Easy 8 would probably do it. He didn't try. But there are other guns that wouldn't be accurate enough to necessarily shoot through this window from the other side of the map. We've managed to get a nice piece of damage on that Easy 8. And we're actually pulling ahead. So it might be time to move out from this position. We're advancing very strongly up the eastern side of the map. So I'm going to support that side. But I'm going to pull further into the middle, use the railroads as cover against flanking shots when I'm making my way up. Because there's quite a lot of enemies around the square. And that area, and I'm relatively low tier to quite a lot of the tanks. Plus, it's an easy tank to hit, so it kind of tends to attract fire for that reason. A lot of people just going for the kills and the easy targets when they can manage them. In fact, I've increasingly seen in the game people ignoring the tank that was actually the threat to them and just focusing on hoping that they'll survive long enough to kill the tank that they were shooting at, because just even though it was lower tier or whatever, and actually not really a threat to them in many cases. Now the artillery has left itself exposed. We get around through here. If he turns and fires back, it should be the legs of the water tower should catch it, and he's also unlikely to hit me on the move. So we just wait for the reload and a clear shot, and then this Absolution comes out after me. Now the Absolution should have utterly destroyed me. He's got the rate of fire, the DPM, and the armour to completely stop my shots, and he's bounced one there actually off the side of my tank. I'm trying to get as much railway, direct railway rolling stock between me and the Absolution as I can. And again, I'm trying to get in a position where I can shoot at him without him being able to shoot back at me. We've put another round through him there. There's an 88 trying to come around the other side of him, and if he wants to come around after me, I'm willing to let him try. Hopefully I'll get around the back of him first. Now I took a heat round in the tracks in the SU-122A, but I've put return rounds into the Absolution instead. Now the Absolution's actually managed to destroy my engine. How I didn't die with that last shot, I don't know. But anyway, we finished him off, and that's it. So we have 1,000 points of direct damage done. 155, yeah, 1055, 215 assisted damage, and actually bounced to 135, which was one of the shots in the absolution. The SU-85 fired at somebody else, so I'm going to take him with the job of firing back at it. So overall, it's not the worst tank I've driven. It's certainly not the worst tank stock. I've driven a lot worse than it, and so far it's a relatively painless grind. The Czech grind has been, unlike say the Polish grind, which is a much tougher proposition. So we finish up in the final analysis, 1149 damage. We got a first class mastery, fire for effect, and all that kind of stuff, and we came number 1 by experience, with a considerable much more damage than most of the other players. That was also a relatively cheap first class mastery experience wise. Anyway, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video and found it interesting. If you did, give it a like and a share. Feel free to comment. If you've not already done so, please subscribe. I will catch you all again soon. Bye for now.